Hi, everyone. This is Vicki Harrell, Executive Director of SWPP, and welcome to our webinar today, sponsored by Intradiem. We have Ted Lango and Josh Wilkins with us today. They're going to give us information about why real-time automation is the missing link to effective AI. There's our buzzword again for the day, AI. That's on your bingo card. We got you started already this morning. We want you to interact with Ted and Josh today using the chat on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And we're going to record this. We're going to send out the recording later on. And so even if you miss something or you want to share this with someone else in your organization, you'll be able to have the recording for that. If you see the chat on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, I don't know if WebEx looks a little different to you this morning than it did for me when I logged in this morning, but the chat is on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, a little chat bubble, and you can send your message to everyone, although it looks like now that looks a little different as well. But if you would put some chat in there this morning and let us know where you're listening from and how many agents you have in your organization, so everybody can find the chat this morning and make sure that everybody knows where to put information as when they start asking questions and wanting your feedback. Right. You having problems sharing?
Yeah, my WebEx just died. Sorry about that, folks. Just give me 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so Bob's in the Twin Cities with 300 to 500. Valerie's in Memphis at St. Jude with 250. Atlanta, 150. Iowa, 1,000 plus. Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, about 85 agents. Nicole's with Bob. Okay. Dad's in Detroit with about 500-ish. Right, 4,000 with Ann in Arizona. Charlotte has 78 degrees and question mark agents. I don't know what the weather, the temperature is here in Nashville, but I can tell you that it has been raining for a week and we are about tired of it. So all right. So again, if you find the chat on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, this is everything looks different this morning in WebEx for some reason. And put in the chat where you're listening from and how many agents you have. But while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Josh and Ted and let them get started. Thanks, guys, for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Vicki. Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Wilkins. I'm the solutions consultant with Intradiem. I was a former customer in my past life, so I've used the tool as an agent on the phones to getting training delivered. I've used the tool to manage it at a platform level from the command center, kind of an intraday role. And I've worked with people like Ted in the planning side of things for many, many years. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Ted?
Good morning. Thanks, Josh. I'm Ted Lango, founder of WFM Labs. I'm now also doing my own consulting with an organization called Kyoto Solutions, formerly with Intradiem. Had a great couple of years working with the team there and about 20 years of call center operations. Like Josh was a past customer of Intradiem's as well. Happy to see everybody today. Love to share a few ideas that we've got with you about data, AI, and automation. So I think, Josh, we're going to set this up and talk a little bit about why data alone isn't enough. What does real time look like and how to really set the stage for AI? At the end of the day, we'd love to hear back from you. We'll ask a few questions. We'll start actually kind of looking at the landscape of data itself. We're as an organization, I think, swimming in data. Josh, if you want to click onto the next screen, I want to ask everybody, sort of where they are on data, their data journey. Just personally myself, I've been sort of through this cycle where we start off working with spreadsheets up in the upper left-hand corner. Over time, we may get some of our data organized and hopefully to some degree delivered via dashboards where we're not having to hack together our data. Some of that involves automation, around actually how we acquire the data. And then if we're fortunate, we can go past that and start to work with things in real time itself. And I'd say I've seen people who live across this spectrum. It's kind of the first question I'd love to ask everyone here. If we said up on the left corner, spreadsheets, that's number one. We'll say some like Tableau or Power BI, number two in the middle, or are you running, command centers where your data is flowing through real-time dashboards? What type of world do you live in? Is it 1 and 2? Have you completely gotten rid of spreadsheets and everything's automated? Like number 3 in terms of how you work with data. Love to just see where everybody is. If you can drop that into the chat. Number 1, hey, I'm still stuck in spreadsheets. I don't have anything automated. Number 2, and maybe it's 1 and 2, I've got some reports that are automated, or hey, we've left 1 behind altogether and we just go with number 2 and 3. I see in a lot of 2s and 3s, a few 1s and 2s. Obviously, if you can break away from spreadsheets and the manual nature of those, I'm all for it. Getting your data itself automated is a huge step in the right direction. I personally have lived through where spreadsheets are sort of always yesterday's data. Even when I automate and pull things into Power BI, I may just be looking at stuff that is, hey, from the last interval or from yesterday or from the last week. It's great that I've automated the collection of that data, but if I can look at things in real time, that really gets me to a springboard to think very differently about how I work as an operation. Josh, some thoughts from you just on data?
Yeah, no, thanks, Ted. I love thinking of it in terms of day-old donuts. You can still eat them, but you don't really want to if you have a choice. So I've worked in worlds where you kind of running your command center to fill in those Excel sheets. How many people have kind of gone through this journey and sort of stuck where you need an army of people to now deal with the data? Does anyone sort of analyze themselves into a hole, so to speak?
And I know a lot of people who still have to go back and it's like, hey, we've automated things, but we're still back to leveraging spreadsheets to do that type of analysis.
Yeah, kind of like taking your forecasting out of the WFM tool and doing it in Excel on the side of your desk, right? Awesome. So where I was getting to with that is from a command center perspective. If you have all of these data points, you have all of these entries into doing something about your business, about your situation. If you don't have the army of people to man those, it really tends to be an issue of overwhelming. All I'm doing is sitting there in the DMV, so to speak, with 1,000 customers in the line. I can't talk to them fast enough. You can either ramp up the staffing side of things or change the process or the technology that you're using, so you're not just trying to solve that problem with people.
The irony of this, as we kind of go to the next slide, is even if you've worked your way up and you feel like we've evolved our organization to where we've automated data, we have command centers, we think we're kind of on top of it and we really have the views we need. We're seeing right now a trend on CX that is as low as it's ever been looking back over the past decade. At the end of the day, we're still missing something. Forrester published this not so long ago that shows that CX post really our COVID time has just gone down year after year after year. So as you kind of reflect back on how we as a workforce management organization are working with data, we may feel good that we've gotten out of spreadsheets, that we've got more information to make decisions about. We may have a command center where we feel like we're looking at things in real time. There's still something missing here. We just see CX continue to decline. Now, that's not all on us, but workforce management plays a pretty critical role in ensuring that we're available for the customer when they want to be there. So we want to kind of dig into a little bit of this and contrast this with, what are the priorities that are out there today to try to turn this around. Gosh, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the trends around CX.
No, I'd love to kind of jump into the next piece here and open with a question, and we'll get to the content here. But how many of you folks have CX as a priority from an OKR perspective? You talk about it with leadership, or whatever the situation is. And I know CX is a broad term; it's kind of a loaded question, but I'm trying to see how many are speaking the language throughout the day, kind of thing.
I guess turn it into a yes, no. Like,
yeah.
Is CX a priority for you guys? Yes, or has it dropped off? I mean, is improving customer experience a part of the conversations that your leadership is having with workforce management? Or is it like, now CX is on a decline, just going down, and we're going to let it roll? Yeah, it's kind of a yes, of course answer, I think, for everybody.
That's the loaded side of the question, right? Of course, it's a focus, but is it budget season, and can you actually do something about it right now? And that's really where this slide comes from. This is a Salesforce State of Service survey where they basically asked a bunch of leaders to what focuses were within their company. Customer experience was one of the top, is actually the top focus for different businesses. Improving data quality and reliability is another one, a close follow there. Workforce skills. So it kind of all ties into the purpose of our talk today, is setting up your environment to make sure that you have the people, process, and technology to do something about all of this, all these gobs of data, is really the first step before you can start doing something significant with AI or any kind of automation.
And while the priorities on the left there, improving experience, improving the quality of data, optimizing operations to reduce costs, take a look on the right. Well, one of the interesting things here is, hey, our top challenge, either major or moderate, is keeping up with customer expectations. Customer expectations continue to increase year over year, and that decline that we saw on the previous chart is we're not keeping up. At the end of the day, if customer experience continues to be a priority, but keeping up with expectations continues to be a challenge, that there's something that still isn't connecting. The pressures to reduce costs. So, yep, I don't think it's ever going to go away that we're here and we're in the middle of that optimized operations to reduce costs, yet that's one of the biggest challenges, is the pressure to reduce the cost to serve. And while we want to improve our data and the quality of it and the reliability, one of the largest challenges on this same thing, actually the last two categories on the bottom right, are poor data quality or reliability and disconnected data sources themselves. So these two polls themselves, along with another one coming up, is like, this is the state we're in right now. Post-COVID, CX keeps going down and down. It's obviously a priority for all of us. We understand that. We still have the cost pressures. And at the end of the day, we still struggle with data itself.
That brings us right into this. And the reality is people want to talk to people. You can have as much automation and chatbots and front ends to take a lot of that workload off. Those tend to be simple functionality, simple transactions, and all of us know quite a few of those folks will still call in to verify or to fact check with a human to make sure that that last piece was actually done the way that they wanted. So there's a level of maybe distrust or hesitation as we sort of start changing into the brave new world. And that really ties into everything we're talking about, is we need to have the groundwork ready before you can start making these changes to enable things like automation or an AI agent that's going to take workload out of your call center.
I think we've seen poll after poll after poll that just keep saying the same thing. This number is, from an aggregate of polls that we've taken, read, it's like everything always continues to say the same thing. Agents rather, or customers rather talk with agents than with bots. Now, transactional things, yeah, we love automation. We don't want to have to talk to an agent to simply make a payment if we can do it online. But all that stuff has over the years gone away to where it's like the transactional stuff. Yeah, we know we can do it on our app. We can do it online. That stuff is gone, but what's left is still going to require agents. And I continue to challenge people thinking, hey, call centers are going to be gone in 2 or 3 years. That's, what we heard, call centers are going to be gone. AI, is here, the bots are here, they're going to take everybody's job. It's not happening. Yes, the population as a whole may shrink over the next 5 to 10 years, but people are still going to want to talk to people. And that means we're all going to be employed doing the same thing that we're doing today, maybe on smaller pools of people, but people still need to talk to people on the things that matter.
Yep, it's a good point. And orchestrating all that work, whether it be an employee or an AI agent or whatever the future holds, it's still going to require the fundamentals that we manage through. So that's a good call out, Ted. Tying into this next piece here, Chad raised a good point about all of the buzz. I wanted to ask from a project perspective, how many of you folks have yes, no question is better. Do you have an AI project in flight right now in your business? Yes or no? We're laying the groundwork for the whole concept here is that the AI projects tend to fail if you don't have the right groundwork, footing to make sure that you have the data to feed the people, processes, technology to do something about the automation that you're going to get from something like an AI platform that will, and chatbots do count to an extent depending on how you've deployed it. They have like the 10-year-old version where it's not so much thinking, it's more going through different workflows. There's an in-between with the future state where that's getting a lot more intelligent. So I would count that one, Valerie.
We talked about at the beginning of this data an awful lot. And even as you see AI projects get released, they're there, they appear to be successful. Behind the scenes, whether you see it or not, a vast majority of these projects fail. They fail primarily because of the data side of things. At the end of the day, we could be saying, hey, we're training a chat bot that's going to be an intelligent bot that's going to work off these knowledge bases that are going to work with customers. And most companies are still have a lack of appreciation that you don't build these things, deploy them, and then say goodbye. The data itself and the knowledge of these bots and the different technologies, it shifts over time, and that data needs to be refreshed, redeployed. It's a very intensive process to keep these projects going. So kind of a warning sign here is, as you see projects released and all of a sudden next quarter or next year, a bot's come out that appears to be taking volume out of our call center. And we say, oh my gosh, that's great. We can start planning for less headcount. Don't count on that bot just being there, taking that traffic and, carving out 5%, just like as though you had deployed a new feature on an IVR. These things drift. They're going to require us to really monitor, are they performing? And they're not going to monitor, or they're not going to perform just in the same way like a traditional IVR utilization does over time. So as you see those projects come out, keep an eye on them. Data behind a lot of the AI related projects drifts over time. Those models might perform great today. In 2 months, they may not perform, or you may have something deployed that all of a sudden does something crazy and leadership says, oh, we got to take that down. So for 3 weeks, you just took 3% of traffic out, and then it gives someone a wrong answer and people pull the thing back out. So I fully believe AI is going to continue to help both agents. And I think that's where the gold is agent assisted AI, I think, can go a lot farther than people realize to help our agents streamline what they're doing. Deflection, yes, over time, but it is not a silver bullet, and it's not going to change what we said on the previous slide here.
That's a good call out, Ted, because the last few conferences we've gone to, even the last 2 years at SWPP, last year was more focused on here's all these great things that we can do. Here's all this awesome technology that's coming out. This year, the conversation was very much, okay, let's take a step back, make sure that our knowledge base is really key and clear so that we can feed something like a knowledge management tool or a chatbot that's going to take volume out. So if you don't have that foundation, all of a sudden you're going to have to stop, start again, look back and think what went wrong. The better thing to do would be to focus on that as you're launching, making sure that your house is clean before you kind of lean into your neighbor's yard, so to speak.
Well, a couple of years, I think this is about 2 years ago, we developed in WFM Labs, a workforce management maturity model. And we've tested this and gone pretty deep in a lot of these areas. I wanted to bring it up again today and do another poll. I'll walk folks through, how the maturity model's laid out here briefly. And then I'm just going to ask if people want to put where they are on that model itself. And I want to tie this into really the heart of our conversation here, which is data, getting your data clean, but then taking and using your data for automation, we believe is a prerequisite to really becoming an AI-rich organization. Workforce management organizations almost always start at level 1. This could be your call center 20 years ago when it just started up, or it could be a new call center. It's manual in its nature. It's Excel based. A lot of it's reactionary in how we decide hiring. There may or may not be a formal WFM team, or it may just be one person, who's building schedules out on spreadsheets. We define that as level 1. Once you've grown past level 1 and you get off spreadsheets, what have you done? You've invested in an actual technology like an IEX or an Aspect or a Verint or any one of them out there, and you start to really build out your schedules, you build out your team, you start to forecast into the future, and you go from being reactive and all on spreadsheets to really building processes, having the technology and a foundation for doing workforce management, in a more structured way. Far better than doing things on spreadsheets. That's what we call level 2. That's honestly between level 1 and level 2, where probably 80 to 85% of the industry sits right now. We're still doing things like pre-scheduling training, pre-scheduling coaching, hoping for the best, and then when the day comes up, we're pulling a lot of levers to react to variance in our plan. Level 3 is where you introduce automation. We're a data-rich organization, workforce management. Our data is very structured. Data that comes out of the ACD in terms of handle time and call volume, who's logged in, what are the queues, data that comes out of our WFM system. It's all very structured. Unlike a lot of stuff that feeds AI, we can define handle time. We can define how many people are staffed here at 10:30. We can pull that together and introduce automation. If you're an Intradiem customer, you have some type of automation that is taking action in real time to make adjustments to your workforce management, you're starting to play in level 3. And we'll spend more time on level 3 here as Josh goes into our next section. Level 4, we defined as an organization that starts to really look at the capacity planning. There's 2 big failures in a lot of call centers, and one of them is, hey, we're reacting, we don't have automation, we can't plan dynamically enough. Another is something that a lot of us can relate to, which is building bad budgets and getting stuck with what I'll call a fragile capacity plan itself. And we've proposed ways where now you can use a lot of tools, simulation, and do far more analysis on developing a capacity plan that presents a range of outcomes and starts to assign a risk rating to it. This is where we go from kind of deterministic models where we're just adding up numbers to really simulating outcomes that may happen in the future. And really, when you go past that is when you're ready to start bringing on things that are more advanced. You're AI ready. You're able to start to look at things like employee attrition and not just trend it, but predict it. You can get very sophisticated in level 5, pioneering about how you're building very dynamic shifts. You can start to integrate things like AI with your agents and really dynamically work on a day-by-day basis. So just a question for everyone, you're doing things still in spreadsheets, that's a 1. Are you in traditional workforce management software like a Verint and IEX, but still pre-scheduling things like training, coaching, doing all those things ahead of time? That's a level 2. Level 3 is you already have automation in your organization. You basically are not pre-scheduling training, not pre-scheduling coaching. You've given up on adherence because you've got automated ways to deal with adherence, and you're like, that's no longer worth dealing with. That's level 3. Level 4 is you're doing actual simulation for your capacity planning as opposed to taking all your data out, spreadsheets. That's level 4. And then level 5 is what we call pioneering, where you've gone all that. And just like John said, you may be at 2, but you might be playing with some of level 4 capacity planning. We think of these as gates. You can do a level 2 and a level 4 to some degree. We see most organizations evolve, through these gates. It looks like a lot of level 2s right now, which is what I would expect because we've done a lot of surveys across the industry. And as I said, 80 to 85% of folks today are still pre-scheduling and attempting to do things ahead of time. Build a plan that has all those things set up ahead of time. I've said enough on this, Josh. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on this slide.
No, it's great context. And I like the idea of them as gates. You kind of require that having a lot of automation to be able to do a good job with number 4. As an example, if I'm building a really robust forecast, I have my plan down to the interval and really, really accurate. Anything that changes throughout the day, like absenteeism or an event happens where all of a sudden 30% of your call center is late, there's a power outage in a work from home area, whatever it is that's going to change your demand or your capacity, reacting to that manually is really going to take all of your Monte Carlo simulations, that accuracy, and it kind of throws it out the window because you can't do anything about it. And that's really where this next piece comes in, where you can start taking actions without needing to take the action in the first place. You just kind of do the setup, build the logic on what you want to happen, and then automation will take it from there. And there's a lot of different flavors of that. The one we're talking about is really kind of leveraging the data that comes out of the ACD and within the WFM system, and then taking intelligent actions throughout the day. So you don't have to have an army of people kind of manning that queue.
And we think as well of this as gates because as AI is coming, and it's coming, it will introduce degrees of variability into your business. And at the end of the day, if you've got your plan built out and it's rigid and you feel good about it, there still is variability that's going to come into play. AI won't necessarily just take that out and make it, a better thing. In fact, level 4 is a function of AI. It's predictive AI. A lot of us think of AI and just go right to LLMs and chatbots and things like that. But a big piece of simulation in level 4 is using machine learning, a function of predictive AI, to really get better at how we think about planning. What we feel pretty passionate about is if you really want to be AI ready and call yourself level 5 cutting edge, you not only need the simulation around your capacity planning, but you need to break out of the mindset of trying to build these rigid plans that pre-plan all that activity and shift into where I can start every day and know I've got automation that's going to, have my back. I'm going to be able to pull some people off in those areas that we have lulls. I'm going to be able to put people back in, shift between channels, and really ebb and flow. As you think forward into AI and what that environment's going to look like, we think now more than ever, it's super important to have a lot of our functions automated that we do in workforce. So tell us, Josh, about it.
Oh, that's a great call out, Ted. Thank you. If you think about Ted's example of all of those moving pieces, if you're doing that without automation, what you're really doing is you're leaving it up to the people at the end of the day to make those communications, send a Teams message out, a Slack message, whatever it is. There's a lot of lag time sending those communications, someone reading it, taking a second to process, saying yes, responding, acknowledging, doing the work, whatever it is. When you do automation, you can kind of skip quite a few of those steps, and you would be shocked at scale how much efficiency that adds into the equation. Even something like delivering a training session, which I'll get into in a second, doing it in a 10-minute block during your lulls where you have your overlap period or people have logged in for the evening shift, things like that. Again, you'd be really surprised how quickly you can harvest that time and do something productive with it, all without needing an army of people watching it like a hawk and then trying to harangue a group of people to go do something different. So from a technology perspective, what Intradiem does is we integrate into your ecosystem. We connect with your WFM and ACD systems. We do the ACD side in real time, and we send events back to WFM as they're happening, so essentially in real time as well. What we're doing is we're trying to take the information from these systems, like Ted was talking about earlier. There's so many data points coming from all these different platforms. There's value in each of them. Being able to measure and manage and do something reliably from any of these data points, it's a superpower at the end of the day. Again, because you don't need that army of people to do something about it. Focusing on the WFM and the ACD side of things. On the ACD side, we're reading call queue stats, data about the agents, agent state information. Think someone who is on an aux code for X amount of time. How long were you at the call on a particular customer? And the big one is queue statistics. How many calls are in queue? What's the longest call waiting? How many agents are unavailable? All of these data points become inputs into the Intradiem rules engine so that we can do something like delivering a training session when there's a lull in the queue, or identifying this voice queue is really quiet. Let me move them over to a chat queue because I know that they're quiet as well. Or sorry, they're busy as well. There's some volume waiting there. Balancing that channel between one queue where you have that kind of capacity sitting and one queue where the capacity is really needed. Taking those automations in real time, reducing a lot of that lag time of communicating from one to another. There's a lot of power there. On the WFM side, we're reading and writing schedules, as well as information about agents, hierarchy data, staff group information, work anniversaries, birthdays even. All of those things become inputs into the rules engine. So as an example, if you wanted to do a recognition for somebody's birthday, give them an extra anniversary break, it's really easy to do in the platform, and you can build the rule where I'm measuring the queue health to make sure I'm not going to deliver something like that unless there's really availability. So you can kind of balance that engagement benefit with the needs of the business to make sure that you're not sort of harming the queue or harming your service level. And the big benefit to your workforce folks is it's not landing in a list that you have to go through and manually update segments. Anyone who's ever gone and done kind of A to B data entry type stuff, a couple hours in and your eyes start going cross-eyed. So taking that workload off of those folks, letting them use their brains to actually do some forecasting, deal with collision events, talk with the operations teams. Instead of firefighting, we can prevent some fires from tomorrow. It's a really big game changer for hiring into the workforce team because we're getting rid of kind of the same idea that chatbots and automations are supposed to on the call center. Get rid of those simple works that doesn't really need to be handled by a human. Take anything that's complicated and get the information to the right person and let them take it over the finish line to actually fix whatever the problem is. From a technology perspective, we connect with anything from an ACD and WFM side. We really go where our customers go. We're on-premise as well as in the cloud, depending on kind of which revision and which version people are on. And we also have some other products, which I'll touch on just really quickly at the end. The rules engine itself is really, really simple. The logic is Boolean logic, so it's if, then, and then impact. As an example, this rule that you see here is measuring queue health. The frequency is how often we're checking it. Maybe we want to check the queue every 5 minutes to see if there's availability. Those blue boxes are the conditions. What am I measuring to deliver something like a training session? When am I happy or sad based on the queue measures so that I can do something like a training session or a coaching session or channel balancing? Maybe it's 15 minutes to go read your emails or do a performance evaluation or something about career development. At the end of the day, we like to think of ourselves as a time machine. We're really harvesting the time out of the queue. So instead of relying on that army of people or pre-scheduling it so much that you have to have everything right, otherwise the plan kind of falls apart, we fit in between those two worlds to simplify the day of your real-time folks. Again, letting them focus on kind of preventing fires versus dealing with everything that's burning right now. And then as well within Intradiem, you can always limit down to the impact side of things if you want to restrict it to a particular staff group or some of those conditions I mentioned earlier. Tenure, if you've been with the company for 6 months, maybe you get different training rules or different outlier management rules, whatever the case is. We have a lot of flexibility on building the logic to make sure that we're matching your environment, and whatever automations we're bringing in, they're really reliably exactly what you want to happen in that moment. And again, to Ted's point earlier about how structured WFM data is, we're really in a good place to be able to make that happen considering everything that we put into the platform. From an output perspective, we can output to a desktop alert. So that's where you get your training prompts or kind of an alert if someone is stuck in an aux code or on a long call or something like that, if we want to send out some support for them. If we send a prompt over to an agent, we can send them a start button to launch something like a training session or send them a yes/no question to ask if they're okay and they need some help. As an example, if you're stuck in ACW and I send you a prompt that says, I see that you've been in here for 5 minutes, do you need some support? And they say yes. We can route that to a Slack or a Teams channel or to an email box where someone's managing it. Essentially, what we want to do is if we're ever reaching out to someone, the dispatch guidelines need to be extremely clear or have some sort of path to get them to a solution. If they're stuck and they need some support, get them that support. If they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, they're in the wrong aux code, let's tell them which aux code to go to. Let's deliver the training they should be doing. Whatever it is, we want to remove friction from everybody's day, both on the workforce side and at the end users or the agent side of the day too. Alrighty, so a day in the life. From a logic perspective, again, what we're trying to do is remove the need for people to be managing a lot of these problems. I've touched on quite a few of these, and Ted's kind of talked about a couple of them as well. Ted, do you have any kind of high level examples you want to share before I jump into the walkthroughs?
For me, the bread and butter was training. I mean, I don't know who has schedulers who say, hey, can I do more work trying to pre-train or pre-schedule training itself? And at the end, that was our kind of our cash cow, the one that we cashed in all the time. So I would start there, and I'll give you a little color after you explain how
Awesome.
that one.
To open that up, I'd actually love to ask the audience, from a training perspective, how often are you guys rescheduling it? We hear anywhere from 15 to 25 to 50% of the time. We always used to call it training whack-a-mole in my world, where I schedule training for everyone, and then for whatever reason, huge portion of that population just doesn't get it done, asks for an extension, has to do it again, didn't see the segment, whatever the situation is. How much of that is a problem still in everyone's worlds, just kind of percentage-wise? Any ballpark would be nice.
Cancel because, oh my
Wow.
gosh, 80%.
My heart just
That would
started.
be
Yeah.
I about fell over too. 25%, yeah. I mean, we are always having to cancel because of service level challenges. At
Yep.
the end of the day, it's like you've got performance guarantees, and hey, it's the 20th of the month, and right now we're hitting the ditch. And so basically all that work that we went to line up all those schedules just gets whacked off the schedule itself, knocked off that schedule because service level was king. So
Yep.
yeah.
And I like your point, Lisa. Basically, there's a policy that says if it's stuck, they have to move it over. The other side of it is now you have an army of people dealing with those inputs. I have all of these segments that I need to change. So just on the workforce side, we're adding workload there too. It's a much better world to automate it away where if we have reliable measures, I can see in the ACD exactly what people are doing. I can see in the WFM what they were supposed to be doing. And I have a list of all the training that needs to be completed or coaching sessions, things like that. All of that data lets us orchestrate when this should happen in those peaks and valleys that naturally happen in any big contact center. And then the due dates is a good call out as well. From a logic perspective, I'll kind of jump into it from a example. For off-phone engagement, which is what we call our training delivery tool, what we're doing is we're measuring queue health, like I talked about earlier. We're looking at the ACD and measuring longest call waiting, calls in queue. We're trying to see whether or not I'm happy or sad right now. Am I hitting my budget targets? Am I meeting my service level? Am I doing right for the business? While balancing that, I have work that does need to get done. I have training that needs to be delivered. I have coaching sessions that absolutely have to happen because the people at the end of the day, if they're feeling unsupported or if they're having challenges kind of getting work done, all that's going to do is bleed into your handle time or your CSAT scores. And at the end of the day, cause a bigger problem than it would have if just dealing with it in the moment. Being able to measure the queue and balance your budget versus the efficiency that you're trying to get, it's a superpower that you don't need an army of people to manage. We look at the agent states and the queue statistics. We check everything on an agent schedule to make sure that we're not adding friction to their day. As an example, if I'm going to give you a 20-minute training session, but you have a break coming up in 15, I'm not going to offer you the training. Your break will come first. We can adjust your break and all that kind of fun stuff. But after the fact, if you're unavailable in the future, the logic would be that I'm in a queue, I'm wrapping up my call. In this case, I have availability in the queue, and I also have training that's assigned. So I don't have any kind of collision. There's no break coming up. There's no team meeting that I need to be present for. I'm going to get the pop-up on my screen that says start to offer me a piece of training. This would be the same thing from a coaching perspective, which I will show you guys as well. But essentially, we're saying, hey, your queue is quiet right now. I see that you don't have anything assigned. Let's pop up something to give them a YouTube video or a LinkedIn learning training or link directly into your LMS system. We can also do integration to kind of automatically load tasks and take quite a bit of the workload away from administering all of that. But from a logic perspective, once we've finished the training side, we've offered them a training session. As soon as we offer that training session, we update your IDPs, which kind of ties back into the level 3 requirements that Ted was talking about earlier. If I have an IDP and I don't have attendance automated, I don't have training delivery throughout the day automated, any of those changes become variance that bleeds into your plan, which means if I'm trying to make decisions off of an IDP that's a little bit old, I'm making decisions off of day old donuts. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it's the right one or not. I think it is. It probably is close to. But instead of probably, we can make sure that it's absolutely what's happening. So while we measure the queue, I know right now that it's quiet. I know that you don't have training or another meeting or segment that's going to cause collision. All of those things I can check in the moment automatically. Instead of having a poor real-time analyst go through and do all these checks manually in 3 different platforms, we use the integrations to do it all right in the moment before the pop-up would even happen on the agent's desk. Once they've finished the training, we actually will truncate it down to whatever they actually completed it for. So if it was a 20-minute training, they took 17 minutes, we're going to truncate it down to the 17 or 10 minutes here in this case. But essentially, we offer them the training, don't say how long it is, and we kind of let the natural amount of time that they take to complete run through the system, and then we'll update your WFM side of things. There's reporting all the levels down, so anything that we offer over to an employee, we'll have reporting on what was offered. There's a lot of really great assignment type tracking, which we can talk more if anyone wants to kind of follow up. Love to go into more detail on it, but there's a big benefit to be able to corral the environment or all the executives, everyone from a leadership perspective around what are we trying to do here? We're delivering training. We're trying to make sure that all of these different activities are getting done in a reliable way. So at what point do we cancel training? Having Intradiem, being able to have that conversation before everything's on fire, before kind of emotions are running hot and executives start trying to make decisions in the moment, it's really, really powerful to have everyone running on the same page, marching towards the same beat of the same drum, so that we can do all of these kind of things in the moment.
So my testimonial on this is prior to Intradiem at my previous environment, we'd pre-schedule everything, pre-schedule the training, the certifications, the relicensing, all of that. After 1 full year of Intradiem, I mean, we looked back and we totaled everything up. We ended up delivering 3 times the amount of training and support to agents with no change in shrinkage, just by harvesting real-time availability, 3x the amount of training and support that we delivered. And that for us was just mind-boggling that we could support agents. There's downstream impacts to that too. On top of that, agents who are supported and trained, guess what? They don't attrit nearly as much. So this for us was just such a place to start, and the data doesn't lie. We don't change any shrinkage. We just start delivering training every day, every interval, based on the conditions themselves.
Thank you, Ted. Just to close on this topic from an off-phone perspective, it isn't just training. I'm going to walk through coaching in just a second, but coaching is a great example. One of my favorites is like leadership videos from the C-suite. The call center tends to be the first place that gets dropped for something like a 2-minute engagement reel or a marketing buzz, something kind of fun and simple. You expect people to do it in their downtime during ACW or while they're on break or in available time, things like that. Being able to deliver something engaging to the entire company with no touch to your service levels, not affecting your queue at all, and your poor workforce team is not updating 5,000 segments for a 2-minute update or something like that. It's really, really powerful to get everyone kind of running on the same beat to the same drum. And Kevin, I do see your question. I don't have any data offhand, but one of my favorite examples, we had an in-person event where a leader shared that an agent had moved from a competitor over to them, and the competitor had Intradiem kind of automating break adjustments. And their question was basically, why are we doing these things ourselves? Like, kind of, why don't we have this automated? I like to think of it like moving from switching calls manually with kind of cables to having the ACD do that work for you. We're trying to do the same thing on the workforce side so people don't have to focus on it. And you're absolutely right. There is a huge engagement win, but we are very conservative on that. We kind of focus on the dollars and the efficiency side of things.
I had data. I won't share direct numbers, but I will say to some degree it depends, because we worked across different segments of business, and different segments of business have different leaders and have different policies, processes, call types. I was able to draw definitive connections though to which groups leveraged Intradiem heaviest, what their attrition looked like beforehand and what it looked like after. And the most dramatic case that I studied in the past, it cut it in half. Now I can't promise that, but at the end of the day, it is something you want to track as you go along, and you'll see a correlation to. It's just a logical correlation to, we're investing in our people, we're delivering training, we're delivering coaching, which we probably won't have time, but it's the same concept. We're delivering coaching in real time. Agents who are supported, who are coached to get these surprise breaks, they're happier, they stick around. So it's something when I talk to people, I encourage them to track, because it's a side benefit that can add up to huge dollars as well, especially when you first introduce it. Once it's there, you'll have a new baseline for attrition. You take it away, you'll have agents who will be like, well, Intradiem isn't here anymore. I'm going to another organization, just like Josh said, that actually uses this tool because agents love it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. I do think I have a few minutes to kind of quickly go through coaching. From a logic perspective, it's the same measure on the queue to say, hey, the queue is idle. There's something to do here. Let's harvest that time. Let's do something productive with it. The big shift is on the coach's side of the equation. That coaching console that you see, that would be a tool that your coaches, your team managers, team leads, whoever it is that's doing your agent level coaching, they would go in there and manage their teams essentially. The check mark means that I've done a prep work. I'm ready to have a conversation with them. Maybe it's a 5-minute connection. Maybe I just want to say hi, whatever it is. I'm ready to talk to that person now. The time is how long you want that segment to be for. That's what we'll offer to the agent. We'll pop it up on their screen, let them know how long it is, and we'll update the schedule if it's less than that time. So you're trying to kind of manage efficiency within the process as well. So logistically, you can have your kind of your pre-scheduled coaching. You look at your time throughout the week where Tuesdays between 2 and 5 is a really good time to do coaching. Instead of pre-scheduling it, we challenge everyone to kind of paradigm shift into the new world where we can automatically deliver that where it's the best time versus where it was supposed to be the best time based on the plan, based on the IDP. So I've gone through my logic. I've built the queue measures. I've seen that the queue is green. I'm the coach. I put myself into available to coach, and I have people who I've listed out I'm ready to coach to. On the other side, the available to coach means that Intradiem now can see them as a resource, and I'm going to pair them with a coaching, an offer for coaching. So the agent isn't available. They see that they don't have a break coming up. All that collision checks, all those things would still happen as well. We don't want to add friction to anybody's day. From there, the pop-up would happen on the agent side of things. So from the manager side, I'm putting myself into available to coach. The agent's going to wrap up their calls just as before. So they're hitting the available queue, just like they did in the last example for training. In this case, though, it's going to pop up and inform them it's time for a coaching session. The big difference here is there's no vehicle, there's no content, nothing like that. We are just finding that time. So this is just a prompt for them to go have a conversation with their coach or go into their journal, whatever it is the coach wants to use this time for. And then once they finish it, they'll get an offer on the manager side of things so that they know that they have a coaching session ready. We automatically pull them out of available to coach so you don't have kind of collision or any confusion there. Their coaching session is conducted, and after the fact, we'll go in and we'll update the schedule. So we'll put it in for however many minutes that coaching session was done for, and we can truncate it if necessary. Really, the idea here is kind of moving everything into one channel, balancing your noise of communicating to people during the day. If I'm going to send someone a team huddle to read, I don't want them to do it while they're on a call with a customer. I want to know that they're unavailable. I want to know that they don't have another event coming up, so I'm not confusing their day. And I want to give them that time to measure. From a manager's perspective, if I know that you got the training because I see it in your segment, I know that you've gotten the coaching sessions because I can see that in your schedule. I know that you got 10 minutes in a week to go read emails. Instead of going to sit down and ask them, did you see the content or did you have time to do it? The question is, what did you think about the content? It really focuses the conversation to the meat and potatoes of what you're trying to accomplish, be it training or enablement or communication. And it kind of takes away some of that ambiguity where you have to dig through data. We don't want your team leads and your managers to be analysts. We want them to focus on the people side of things. That's what they're good at, and that's what they're there for. And that's what all of these kind of automations are designed to do, is get them away from worrying about the fire that's happening and get them to preventing fires for tomorrow. Looking at time. Yeah, looking at time, I think that's a good time to close here. Any Q&A in the last couple of minutes, folks? Really appreciate everybody's time.
Want to drop down, I'll just say a few more words on the last slide with the maturity model. If you've got that available, and we can share more use cases with everyone. Another huge favorite of mine was adherence. We automatically can adjust breaks and lunches as calls run in. The use cases are endless, but this is a paradigm shift. It's getting out of this mindset of I need to do all this stuff up ahead of time. I need to pre-plan coaching, pre-plan training. Honestly, automation at the end of the day, as people are saying, how are you adopting AI in workforce management? Start here. Just start automating things. You're not necessarily leveraging machine learning to write these rules, although we do have a side product as well that uses that to predict attrition. At the end of the day, that's over on the right side of it, but it's a great spot to get into to really shift how your workforce management organization can use real-time data to deliver so much more at the end of the day. We believe this is like critical as AI continues to come down. You'll be in such a much better spot if you're able to get away from all those manual activities that we still are stuck with today in WFM. I don't know, Josh, if there's any questions you want to try to tackle here in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. I can tackle some of them. I answered one of them on the multi-skill. We essentially would kind of manage towards the lowest common denominator. So if you have a specialty queue or something like that, we do have to consider making sure that we don't take people out of that queue and cause a routing problem. For John, for your question from a training perspective, we do track which trainings are completed. In general, we use a custom segment on the WFM side of things that'll write back or match back to an Intradiem code. So you can always track what work we've done versus if you did it somewhere else in the platform. And then we also do track completion within Intradiem. That pop-up that offered an agent training when they pressed complete at the end, we have a record of that as well. It depends on if you want to use your LMS as the source of record or if you want to use our kind of tracking on delivering the training. And we also can kind of sync those things up depending on how complex your environment is to make sure that you're working off of one source of truth. And we will follow up, Chad. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think you captured any, but we'll just do a last call. Any other questions? All right, Vicki. Thank you. I'll thank everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It has been a great morning. Lots of great information. I really was interested to see that there weren't many people past the level 2s on the maturity curve, but hopefully everybody is moving that way. Right. We got a couple other things coming up, guys. If you can.
Yeah, so the Flex offerings, I'm not following, Brian, if you can elaborate on that. For HR tool integrations, we do integrate with some LMS systems. In general, all we're doing is building in tasks, so we're kind of loading in task side of things. From an HR tool, it's usually your WFM system that'll connect to payroll that connects to HR. So we'll get the information that we need, hierarchy data, things like that, from your HR tool in some cases, but generally it's just pull it right out of your WFM side of things.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. It's a pleasure to share this with you. Feel free. I'm kind of all over the place on the internet, WFM Labs, ping me if you ever want to chat about this from a end user perspective. I'm happy to. And of course, Josh, you'll offer the same.
Likewise.
Sorry, I was kind of hoping that maybe you were going to get a follow-up to what Brian was asking. So that's why there was a little silence there.
But. I think he might be thinking of kind of flex schedules or something like that, like Uber style scheduling. And the answer is we look at the segments and the IDP coming from the WFM system. So if you plan in a, let's call it new version, a sporadic way where you're kind of doing flex scheduling, we would get the same inputs. What we would have to do is consider those thresholds a little more carefully to make sure that we're not getting ahead of our skis, so to speak, and taking too many people off where you do have a big lull in your staffing. We can take in net staffing from your WFM system to do quite a bit of that. Kind of ties right back in and puts a very nice bow on the whole presentation. The data in is the data out. So we need to make sure it's really good quality on the way in, and we can make really good quality decisions on the way out.
All right. Okay. And I will be sending out the recording so that you can share it with anybody, or I've even had an email from somebody already said he had to drop. He wanted to make sure he got a copy of the recording. So we will get that out to you in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. And thanks again to Ted and to Josh for all the great information.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Becky. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.